Okay, hi everybody. We are live. This is author illustrator Brian Yanish here on Earth Day, and I thought we'd celebrate by doing one of the more challenging projects from my book, Junk Re-Thunk. Today's project is going to be the monster truck. Looks like this, made out of a milk carton, some cardboard, some straws, and it actually rolls pretty well, which is pretty cool. So you can make this car you can actually play with. So let me just get set up on a couple of things here. Make sure I can see some comments. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, great. So while we're waiting for a few more of you to join us live, I'm going to tell you what materials you're going to need if you have not already gathered them. So our main materials today are going to be a milk or juice carton like this. You are also going to need some cardboard. Now, we're going to use some thicker cardboard, kind of like the stuff you would find from a cardboard box. So you might have an Amazon box lying around. This makes really good wheels for our project, so grab your cardboard box. You're also going to need 2 to 3 straws, okay? Can be any kind, I just happen to have these black straws. We're gonna use a little bit of colored construction paper or scrap paper, whatever you happen to have lying around. And for our other tools, we're going to need some tape. Could be masking tape or could be this Scotch tape. We're going to use a little bit of glue. We're going to use a hole puncher. We're going to use a pair of scissors. And we're going to use crayons or markers. And if you have a stapler, that would also be helpful. So, while I am waiting for you to gather some of those materials, since it is Earth Day, I thought that we would talk a little bit about what everybody is doing to celebrate. Oh, one more thing. You'll notice in the post on the link, there is actually a link to these patterns for the monster truck, which is the pattern for making the teeth, which come off the front of your truck. Now, you don't necessarily need this for today's project, but I will be showing you how to use these. So don't worry if you don't have these today. You can always print them out later to add some of the details to your creation. We are going to need something round to trace though. So I actually have a spray can here, which we're going to use to trace our wheels out of. So you're going to want something round to trace, okay? So, Earth Day. Today is actually the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And this is celebrating this fantastic, amazing planet that we live on, that we share, that we have to protect. So the ScrapKins, which you can see right up here on our banner here, are all about mission recyclable, which is reusing and recycling as much stuff as we can. So that's why when I'm making my art projects, I always like to look around the house to see what I can use as building blocks for creating art. So I'm always looking inside my recycling bin for these cardboard tubes and things like egg cartons, all sorts of scraps that I can use for my projects. So inside the book, all of our projects in Junk Re-Thunk, and there are in fact 24 in here. This is going to be today's project, of course, the monster truck, which is on page 68 and 69. But every project you're going to find in this book, they're all made out of recycled materials, which is really cool. In the back of the book, we have this fun little poster I created, which says, "We want you to join the ScrapKins. Use less, create more, build good. Start small and you can make a difference." So this is all about thinking about Earth Day and what little changes we can take to help preserve the planet that we're on. So, we're going to do our project now. Oh, by the way, if anybody has comments while I'm doing this, I'd love to hear what you think. Maybe if you have the book at home and you see a particular project that you'd like me to do a video about, just leave it in the comments. Also, leave me a comment if you're watching live and you don't understand a step or you want me to go over it again. Sometimes I go pretty quickly, and I know that some of you are trying to follow along. So write me a comment and say, hey, slow down. But I will try to be a little bit slower today. We're going to be working for about 25 to 30 minutes to build our truck. If you don't finish, sit back and watch. You can always go and look at the video later. It'll be up here. It'll also be on youtube.com/ScrapKins. The ScrapKins channel will have all my videos that I post here on Facebook as well. Okay, let's get this thing started. So I'm going to put my books over to the side here while I start my first step. And we're going to start with our milk carton. Take some of these things, put these to the side. Now, please stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to show you a bunch of other vehicles that I've created, all that have wheels, all using this same method of using the straw and the cardboard. And so I'm going to show you a bunch of different vehicles that you can make at the end. Okay, so to start, we are going to start with our milk carton. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to cut the bottom off of it. You'll see that this one doesn't have a bottom on it. We cut it off. So if you have this little spout at the top, we're kind of thinking that as the nose of our character. See, this one has the cap on it. So that's going to be the top. So I'm going to turn this over and we're going to cut off the bottom. Now, this part can be a little challenging because cutting milk cartons is not so easy. So if you need cutting help, just ask an adult or someone who's a little bit older than you for help with cutting. Now, when I'm using tools, it is never a good idea just to start jabbing scissors into a milk carton. You might get hurt, so we don't want to do that. So, the easiest way to get this started so we can cut off the bottom is I'm going to grab a pencil here. It's not really sharp, it's just got a little point to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke it in one of the corners. I'm going to start pushing down. Whoops, see, I wasn't even paying attention there. I'm going to start pushing down and I'm going to wiggle it while I do that. Eventually, I should be able to get that pencil right through the corner there. You can see that I've got a little hole in there now. Once I've got the hole, it's so much easier to put the scissors inside the hole. Okay, so now I can put my scissors inside that little hole that I created and I can start cutting off the bottom of this carton. Cutting milk cartons is a challenge. I've got my hands are pretty strong from doing this for a long time, so just take your time. Doesn't have to be really neat at the bottom. And we're going to go all the way around. Almost there. One more side. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay. You can see that I've got the bottom off my milk carton. Now we're going to save this piece. We may end up using this for some of the details, possibly for the horns later. So just set this piece to the side. And you can see that we've got the bottom, in fact, out of our milk carton. Again, our cap is going to be the top because that's going to be the nose of our creature. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for a moment and we're going to start making the wheels. So again, for the wheels, we're going to want a slightly thicker type of cardboard. So I am using a piece of cardboard from a box. You can see it's a little bit thicker. If you don't have that, you could use a cereal box or something else, but I find that a thicker cardboard is going to make better wheels for our car today. So, as I said, if you don't happen to have the pattern for the wheel, which you could cut out and you could easily trace that, I'm going to be tracing the bottom of this can because it's nice and round. So I'm going to place it right on top of my cardboard. I'm going to get a marker. It's a little easier to see. And I'm going to start tracing this all the way around. We're going to need 4 wheels, obviously, so I'm going to trace 4 circles. By the way, tracing something round is a really good way to learn how to draw circles. Circle is one of the most difficult things to draw. It takes a lot of practice. So tracing something that's round really helps build up those skills. So as you can see, I've got my 4 wheels that I traced on my cardboard piece here, and I'm going to start cutting them out. Get my scissors. Now I'm going to start with wheel number 1. So if anyone has comments or ideas for things that they are doing on Earth Day, I would love to hear how you were thinking like a scrapkin and reusing things and recycling them. So you can go ahead and leave those in the comments. Okay, we got 1 wheel. Obviously we're going to do 4 of these, so this might take a moment to do. Okay, 2 wheels. Take our scraps, put them to the side there. We're going on to wheel number 3. This is also a step that you could also come back and do later if you didn't have time to do all your wheels, once you figure out how we're building this thing. By the way, today is the 7th anniversary of the ScrapKins Builders Club. This is our 7th show, which is kind of cool. And we're going to be doing these every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We'd love to have you join us live. Or if you can't, you can always watch the videos later and maybe even post a picture of the project that you created. Because I love to see how kids are being creative while they're spending this time at home. I certainly know that I like to be creative when I have some extra time around and I have some materials. So, I've got my wheels done. I've got 4 of them. And our next step is going to be to put a hole in the middle of the wheel. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to use a straw as an axle. Now, an axle is the pole shape that actually holds the wheels on any kind of vehicle. So, what we're going to do, here's how you put a hole in the middle of your wheel, okay? Now you might think, oh, I could use a hole puncher, but you'll notice that the hole puncher doesn't go all the way into the middle. It only goes into the edge. So, had to think of another way to figure out this out. So, the way I do this is I'm going to take a pencil. No, actually, I'll use a marker so you can see it. I'm going to draw a line right across my wheel, like that, as if I'm cutting it in half. Then I'm going to draw a line the other way, cutting it in half the other way. Now, where those 2 lines intersect in the middle should be about the middle. So that's going to be where I'm going to poke a hole in my wheel. So I'm just going to get a little pencil here and poke right there, and then I'm going to press it all the way through. So there you go. I've got a wheel with a hole in it. So I'm going to do that for my 3 other wheels. Again, you're drawing a line to split the wheel in half one way, and then you're drawing a line to make that cross right across. Where the lines meet, that's going to be about the middle. That's where you're going to poke the hole. Okay, I've got 2. Wheel number 3. Okay, and our 4th wheel. Okay, so I've got 4 of my wheels, all with holes in them, looking good. I'm going to set those to the side. Here's another fun tip about building cars. I have found that if you take 2 wheels and you actually glue them together, you can make a thicker wheel, which is kind of cool. So if you want to modify your vehicle at the end, try gluing a couple of discs together to make a thicker wheel. You can see this one's got 2 pieces of cardboard, so it's a little thicker. Okay, we're going to go on to some of these details of our vehicle, okay? So we are going to cut out some horns. Maybe we'll cut out some eyes, the teeth, and the tail pieces. Okay? So I'm going to grab some colored paper, whatever kind I want today. And I'm going to use the patterns because I have them. If you don't have the patterns, you can just make it up as you go. Let's use a little bit of a thicker paper. Okay, I like this red shape. Red shade, I should say. Now you may be asking, how did I get this carton so colorful? I actually painted this one. This is why I've got these bright colors and I made these stripes on it. If you're going to go back and paint your vehicle later, I recommend a acrylic paint. This is acrylic craft paint. As long as it says acrylic, it's good. And you might need to paint a couple of layers to cover up the outer coating of your milk carton. So that's how I got these stripes on here in this paint, is I actually painted this one. But we're going to use paper today. So I've got one of my horn patterns, which is basically just a triangle with a little bit of an extra piece at the end. So I'm going to trace that one out like so. If you don't happen to have the pattern, just draw a triangle shape. And I'm going to flip it over so I get a horn facing the other way. Trace that. You can see I've got these two, you can kind of see them right there, the little faint triangle shapes. These are going to be the, as I said, the horns on our monster truck. So I'm going to cut these out. We're going to assemble these later, but I'm just going to get all our pieces together. And as I said, if you want to do this later, you can always go ahead and print out your own sheet which has all the patterns. There's the horn right there. Okay, so we're going to do 2 horns on this monster truck. And then after we do the horns, we're going to start attaching the wheels. My favorite part of doing these projects is assembling all the pieces, and at the end just sort of putting everything together. So it starts as a milk carton, and at the end it transforms into an actual truck. Pretty cool. Okay, I've got horns. I'm going to do eyes. This is a diamond shape for my eyes. Again, if you don't have the pattern, just draw a circle, you know? Again, we can find something to trace if we can't draw a circle too well. I'm going to go around my pattern so I have these 2 diamond or sort of almond shapes. There you go. Take my scissors, cut these out. One. Oh, that's cool. It's orange on the other side of this paper. So I can decide whether I want to use yellow or orange. Okay. So I've got these 2 diamond-shaped eyes. All right, we've got horns. We've got eyes. What else are we going to do? Let's do these teeth. The teeth look like that. They're just 3 triangles with basically a long rectangle above it. So I'm doing green teeth. This is how your teeth will look if you don't brush your teeth for a year. They may turn green. Some monsters already have green teeth, so that's why I'm making them green. You could even make a truck that's not even a monster. You could make it into an animal. Maybe you want to do a kitten truck or a puppy truck or an abominable snowman vehicle. I don't know. It's up to you. Okay, so our teeth kind of look like that. Kind of look like a little mountainscape. All right. Last piece we're going to do is this tail. To make this a real monster truck, it's got to have a tail, right? So first part of our pattern is just a rectangle. So this is super easy. I'm not even going to use the pattern. I'm just going to cut a little strip off of this brown paper. Boom, there you go. And the end of our tail, or the tail tip, is this little triangle shape. So let's see. Let's do this yellow again because I like that. Here's a pro tip. You see it's actually yellow, but it's orange on this side. If we just cut off a corner, boom, we've got a triangle already. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to put those pieces aside for when we're ready to assemble. And we're going to go on to putting the wheels on our axles. So you're going to want to grab your straws. Again, you're going to need 2 to 3 straws. I have these black ones. Use whatever ones you have at home. Make it work. Play around with it. And what we're going to do is, as I said, this is going to be the axle. We've already poked these holes in our wheels here. If you happen to need to make your hole a little bigger, just wiggle your pencil through the hole there and you can make it bigger. But what I found out is if we wrap the ends of a straw with a bit of tape, and I'm just going to tape it on the end and wrap it around, we want the end to be a little thicker because we want it to be snug inside the hole. We don't want it to wiggle around too much. So that's why I found that I wrap the end of them with tape. Then I can go into my hole. Oops. And I'm just going to wiggle it in there until it fits. This one's not big enough, so I'm going to get my pencil, make it a little bigger. Okay. So just like this. So now I'm going to take another straw and do the same thing. I'm going to wrap the end with a little bit of tape, like so. Wiggle it inside the hole, like that. Now we're going to put on the other wheels a little bit later, but I just want to start with this point. Now, another thing about the wheels is we don't want these things popping off while we're playing on here. So once we put it in, we just want a little tiny bit sticking over. In fact, just about that much, because we're going to put a piece of tape over that to kind of hold it in place. And the way that I do that is I just put a piece of tape right over the edge like that, and I just start sticking it down. If it pops through, then push it back. Now this is not a perfect system. This is a little bit different the way that I did it in the book, but I wanted to make it a little bit faster today. So this just helps keep it in place. And don't really worry if it doesn't look pretty. We're going to cover it up at the end, maybe with a hubcap over that. We just don't necessarily want our wheel to pop off. So I'm going to use my fingernails and really pinch that tape down like so. If you wanted to, what you could also do is take a piece of tape and put it in an L shape and put it against the back as well. Just kind of stick it in shape. Because we don't really want the wheels to pop off while we are moving our truck, right? Always use your fingernails to really work that tape down against the cardboard and the straw. So when you're done, if you can look at that, it's got a little bit of tape on the back and it's got some tape on the front to hold the end of that straw in place. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Again, I'm just popping up a very little bit, putting that piece of tape over the end and sticking down the sides and using my fingernail to really wrap around the end of that straw. If it happens to pop out, just go ahead and slide it back in again. And then I'm going to put a couple pieces of tape on the back of the straw in that L shape, like so, and then wrapping that extra tape around the straw itself. Okay, so when we're done, we should have one wheel attached to each of our axles. So we're going to put these aside before we put on the other side. And we're going to pick up our chassis. This is called the chassis, which is the part of the vehicle, which is the main body. Okay, so now we're going to use our hole puncher. And what we're going to do is we're going to punch 2 holes. You'll see again, this is the bottom, on the lower side, right near the edge, but not too close, okay? So if this is the bottom edge, I'm going to go up about a 1/4 of an inch. So, and I'm going to put my hole puncher in, and I'm squeezing from the outside. Okay, so you see where that hole is? It's not too close to the bottom edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the front. Eventually we're going to want 4 holes. Okay, so you see that? We've got the 2 holes. This is where the axle or the straw is going to fit through the chassis or the body of our vehicle. Now, since we want these straws to fit through the holes and we want them to spin freely so the wheels can turn, I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to go in that hole and I'm going to wiggle it a little bit to make the hole a little bit bigger. Same thing on the other side. This will make the straw turn easier. So you can see I've got those 2 holes. Now we're going to want 2 holes on the other side as well, and this is a good way to do this. If I take my pencil and I poke it through the hole all the way to the other side, so it pokes on the inside, if you can see that, and I wiggle it around so it leaves a little mark on the inside where the other hole should be. So again, I'm going to push my pencil all the way through until I'm touching the inside edge and wiggle it around so it makes a little mark. This way, the holes are about in the same place, okay? If you can see that closely. It's very hard to see, but there's actually a mark here and there's a mark here. So this way I can put my hole puncher inside right over that little hole, that little mark I made, and punch my hole in about the same location as the other side. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to do the other one. Try to line it up. Okay. So you can see that we've got 4 holes. 1, 2, 1, 2. And again, those ones that I just punched, again, I'm going to use my pencil to wiggle it in a little bit to make them a little bit bigger. Okay, awesome. So when you're done, you should have a milk carton with 4 holes near the bottom. That's where the axles are going to go. Okay, so now we're actually going to put our axles through the holes. So if I thread these all the way through, like so, you can see that we've already got one of these wheels on. Now you'll know that you did a good job if you can spin this around and it spins freely. If it's not moving very well, you're going to want to get that pencil out and make that hole a little bit bigger. Okay, so then I can do the same thing on the other side. Put that through both holes. Give it a spin. That looks like it's spinning pretty well. Okay, cool. Now, of course, we're going to want to put the wheels on the other side, right? Okay. So I'm going to get my wheels. And again, I'm going to wiggle them a little bit. Before I put that tape over the end, I'm going to slide this wheel on to make sure it fits. Nope, we're going to need a little more. This is all about making little adjustments as you're building this. This is why this one takes a little bit longer. So I've got that wheel on. You can see I've got this huge extra piece of straw which we'll cut off. Our last wheel, wiggling that pencil in. Slide it on the straw. Okay, cool. So you can see that we've already got our 4 wheels on. We just need to cut off the extra straw on the other side. So I'm going to leave, see that gap, probably about a ½ inch from the wheel to the actual carton. So I'm going to trim off the excess. And you can see there's just a little bit sticking out. Just like we did the other side, we are going to put some tape over the edge, right over the end I should say, and tape this wheel in shape. This one's a little easier to do because you're pressing down against the other side. So you can see that I put that tape over the end and I really work down the edges with my fingernail. Okay? And I don't want this one to fall off either, so I'm going to put a little bit of tape on the inside as well. Again, making that L shape. Whoops, we fell off there, which is what we're trying to prevent. Don't worry how the back of this looks. No one's really going to be looking at that. Okay. Another piece of tape for the inside. Really trying to do a good job. Now sometimes what happens is you put a little tape next to the edge and it actually interferes with the hole that you created so it doesn't spin. So if that's the case, then you're going to need to take a little bit of the tape away, because obviously we want this thing to turn around. So I'm going to take a little bit of that tape off, or trim it off with my scissors. Okay. Readjusting. The thing I like about making projects like this is once you've done them a couple times, you figure out what works and what doesn't work. So you can always make little changes as you go. Maybe you find a better way to attach the wheels, and that's awesome. Okay. Got the other wheel on. Let's give this a little spin. Okay, that spins pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. We've got our front wheels on. So now we're going to work on our back wheels. Just like we did, we're going to slide that wheel on because it fell off. Put a little bit of tape over the end of it. Tape it down to that cardboard piece and really use our fingernails to try to get both the straw and the cardboard taped together. Okay, how's that one looking? Pretty good, except it just fell off. So we're going to attach it again. No problem. If you are using the book, you'll find that I did a totally different way of attaching the wheels, which that way works as well. Takes a little bit longer. And then after we have these wheels attached, we can put everything together and start to customize our vehicle with all that decorating stuff. Okay, so I'm adding my last pieces. I'm not really worried about how this is looking on the inside. I just want to make sure that it spins freely. I'm going to adjust that one a little more, and then we're going to be done with that. check and see how it's spinning. Spinning pretty well. And I'm going to go back and maybe adjust that a little bit later. But you can see that it's already rolling pretty well, which is what I want. Now, as you're playing with this vehicle, what you don't want to do is really press down really hard, because the axles will just kind of collapse because they're just straws. So we've got our wheels, they're functioning. And now we can start putting on our pieces to customize it to look like a true monster truck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eyes and I'm going to take a marker so I can just draw a pupil, which is the black circle inside the eye. And this helps bring the character to life. And then what I can do is I can take a little bit of glue. I can take my eye, which has the pupil on it. And I can put a little dot of glue on the back. And I can glue it right on the front there. And you can make these eyes look any way you like. But they will start turning this ordinary milk carton into a character as soon as you start adding some features to it. So you can see on the front there we've got these two eyes, pretty cool. Let's do these teeth. So what we're going to do with the teeth is you'll see we've got this extra piece of paper hanging on off the top here. If we fold a little bit of that over, kind of like a flap, we can put glue along that edge that we folded down. And you'll notice we've got this lip, which is the front of our milk carton. We can actually glue this right underneath that lip. To add our teeth. Pretty cool, right? Now for our horns, we've got these triangles. Again, I'm going to fold that flap over. Like so. You can see all I did was just fold down that little piece in an L shape. Put some glue along that edge. And I'm going to glue that right on the top edge. So we've got one horn. We can do the same thing on the other side. Take our triangle, fold down that top edge, put some glue along it. So then we've got two horns, and the last thing I'm going to show you is how to attach this tail. We've got our rectangular piece and our triangular piece. Now you can either tape the triangle to the end of your little rectangle here, or you can glue it on, or you could even staple it on. That's what our tail is going to look like. And again, I'm going to fold down a little piece like so, just a little flap so I have an edge to glue or work against. Now this could get glued to the back, oops, you can see it, like so, or it could even be stapled on that lower edge. I think to make it a little faster right now so it doesn't fall off, I'm going to use a piece of tape. I may go back later and glue it. So you can see we've got that triangular tail, we've got horns, we've got eyes, we've got teeth, really coming together as a monster truck. And as I said, you can start to add little details to your vehicle as you're building it. However you want to do it. Maybe you want to add some stripes as you paint it. You'll notice what we did here was, one of the patterns that you can get is this little foot pattern. So what I did was I actually glued this kind of like a hubcap over my wheel to kind of make it look like it was feet moving around as the wheels turned of our little creature. So let's add those feet real quick. If you didn't even want to do that, you could even take another circle of colored paper and put it over the end there to make a hubcap. Any design that you would like. So I'm going to add the feet, and maybe we'll do green feet. So I've got my little foot pattern. I'm going to trace that. We're going to need 4 of them. And once I've got my feet on, then we can actually roll this monster truck. All right, 2. We're going to go 3. And if you didn't want to create this shape, you can actually come up with your own shape. So those kind of look like that. They look like little claws. So I'm going to cut these out. Okay, so it looks like that when we're done. You may have noticed that there are many monsters or creatures in this book because the ScrapKins are all monsters that I created. Monsters are one of my favorite things to draw. I even like drawing monsters today. So you may have something that you really like to draw. Could be animals, maybe you like to draw people. Maybe you like to draw airplanes. So you could decorate this any way you like. Okay, working on our, let's call them claw hubcaps. All right, one more. Okay, I've got 4 of these. Boy, my tabletop is getting very messy. Let's clear some of that off. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little glue on the back of this. And then I can stick it right over my wheel. That straw is sticking out a little bit, so I need some more glue. You can see that. So I can do that for each of the wheels. And it has these cool little claws. Do our 2 on the back. And then we'll be ready to give this a proper roll. You know, if your straw is sticking out a little bit from your wheel, you can even poke a little hole in your hubcap shape here, so it fastens a little better. Okay, so I've got my 4 claw feet. You can see on this side it poked through a little bit, which is totally fine. So we've got our vehicle here, and now we can actually play with this. But what I thought would be kind of cool is I'm going to set up my little roadway here to show you how all these vehicles will actually roll. Okay. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Here's my ScrapKins roadway so I can test my vehicles. Let's get that set up. Very cool. Okay. So we've got our, this is the original monster truck from the book. Set it on the edge here. Pretty cool, rolls pretty well. And if you wanted to, you could even try to roll it up the ramp. It's a good way to test if the wheels are working well. Maybe you can make your own racetrack. Now here's our vehicle that we just created, our other monster truck. Pretty cool. I wanted to show you a couple other versions of things that I've created with different wheels. This is another version of a race car. Maybe we will build this at another date. What I wanted to show you, which is kind of cool, is the wheels are different sizes. I've got these big wheels in the back, and the ones in the front are a little smaller. So you can experiment with different wheel sizes. That one rolls pretty well. I've also got this mini racer, which is made from a little tiny milk carton. Let's see how this one goes. Pretty cool. What else do we have? Here's another race car. This one's actually got a rubber band on the front. And if we do this on another day, I'll show you how we can actually launch our car. But this one is pretty fast. We've got another milk carton racer here. This one's got flames on the side. What I like about this one is I cut open the front of it, and here I've got Itcher made out of a cardboard tube. He can actually fit in the car, which is kind of cool. So we can have our creatures driving vehicles. Bye, Itcher. He just fell off a cliff. And the last two that I wanted to show you is this is a tractor, which is another project from the book. Again, different size wheels. These are actually lids from a yogurt container. And then the little wheels in the front are just cardboard. And so this one looks like a tractor. That one rolls a little slower. And the last vehicle that I've created is a digger or a scooper. So we've got those cardboard wheels just like we did on our monster truck. This one has a scooper on the front, so you can actually scoop something up and put it in the back, which is kind of cool. So if any of these vehicles sound interesting to you, maybe leave me a comment and see which one you would want me to do next. But I hope you enjoyed building your own monster truck today. And if you have a photograph that you would like to send, go ahead and post it to our Facebook page. We would love to see it. And I hope you can join me next Wednesday at 12:30, where we're going to do a little more building. We're going to pick a new project right from our book, Junk Re-Thunk. And you can find links below if you're interested in ordering your own book, so you can make 24 of these different projects. And I hope today on Earth Day you were thinking about using some of these recyclables you see around you to make some really cool projects. And I hope that you're using some of this time at home just to be creative and come up with some cool things. So take care, guys. Thanks for building with me, and we'll see you next time.